So let's look at the Chapter 8 practice problems. So question 1 is Tom Skinner has $45,000 to invest in a stock with a beta of 0.8 and another $55,000 invested in a stock with a beta of 1.4. And these are the only two investments in his portfolio. What is his portfolio's beta? So we're trying to find the beta of the portfolio. And if you remember from the lecture, the beta for a portfolio is just a weighted average of the stocks in the portfolio. So the weights are determined by first adding the two sums of money together, $45,000 in the first stock plus $55,000 in the second stock, and that equals 100,000, that equals $100,000. So, to get the weights for each stock, the first one is $45,000 divided by $100,000. So that's 45% or 0.45. And the second weight is $55,000 divided by 100,000. So that's a weight of 55% or 0.55. So when we do the final equation to get the beta of the portfolio, I take the first weight of 0.45 times the beta of the first stock, 0.8, plus the second weight, 0.55, times the beta of the second stock of 1.4. And when I multiply that out in my calculator, I get 1.13 is the beta of the combined portfolio. So that is answer E. And the next question, you start seeing, well, I'm going to try to see what the real question is by looking at the end. What is the difference between Kenneth and Gare's required rates of return? So that means I need to get two required rates of return, I think, but let me see what the hint says. First, find the market risk premium, then find the required returns on the stock. So the required return on the stock market is 12% and the risk-free rate is 5%. If I wanted to do this their way, to find the market risk premium, it's this capital R, P, and then the M at the bottom. It's just 12% minus 5%. And this is all part of the CAPM equation. So that would just be 7%. And so then we could use the required rate of return equation where it looks like RRF plus the market risk premium times the beta. And let's say this is stock S. So we need the beta for stock S. So for the first one, for Gare, I'll put RG. It's equal to the risk-free rate of 5% plus the market risk premium that we found was 7% and times its beta of 0.85. And so its return is 15.15%. And the required return for Chemeth is going to equal 5%, same equation, plus that 7% market risk premium, and times its beta, which was 1.45. And it equals, its required return is 10.95%. And this one's, remember in yellow, this asks for what's the difference between their two rates of return. So the difference, so this could be like step 1, Step 2 is to write the equation. Step 3, Step 4, and Step 5. The difference is just equal to 15.15% minus 10.95%. And so that difference is equal to 4.2. And that's answer E. So use the CAPM equation twice in this equation, or in this question number 2. Okay, so this question, I'm looking at the end, what's the required rate of return on Clover stock? So again, that's the CAPM equation. So R equals the risk-free rate plus, let's see how they gave this type of information. The market required return Okay, so we're given information here on 2 different companies. One is Par Paper and the other is Clover Dairies. And so the equation, this is like the shorter way to write the CAPM equation. We were just looking at this, where we have the beta times the market risk premium. So Par Paper stock, we're going to have to use its information to find the required rate of return on Clover stock. If it said its required return is 13%, that's equal to the risk-free rate of 4% plus we seem to not have the market risk premium, and then times its beta of 1.4. And so the first thing, we'll just have to solve this algebraically. So I'm going to move over here. So 13% minus 4%, if I subtract 4% from both sides, that would be equal to the market risk premium times 1.4. And then I could divide both sides by 1.4. And the next step is that I would get the market risk premium is equal to 6.43%. And now I can find out the R, since this was the R for the paper one and the beta for the paper one. I can solve for the R for Clover. So I have the risk-free rate, 4%, plus the market risk premium that we were able to obtain, 6.43%, and times its beta. I said its beta was 0.8%. And so I get the return is equal to 9.14%. And that's answer D. So first, you write the equation. Second, we had to solve for the market risk premium. And then third, we did algebra. Fourth, we got the market risk premium. And then fifth, we solved for what the required return was for Clover stock. Okay, so the next question is, what's the required rate of return on Krog's stock? So it says the real risk-free rate is 2.5%. So if you remember from chapter 6, I believe, that's R star. And investors expect a 3.5% future inflation rate. And if you remember, that was the inflation premium. It says the market risk premium is 5.5%. And Krog Enterprises has a beta of 1.4. So there's the beta, and this is the market risk premium. So my equation again is, what I need is the risk-free rate plus the market risk premium times the beta. Now, I don't have the risk-free rate. But I know from chapter 6, the risk-free rate is equal to R star plus the inflation premium. So R star was 2.5% and the inflation premium was 3.5%. So if I add those two together, I get my risk-free rate of 6%. So now I have R is equal to 6%. So we can substitute that in now. And the market risk premium is 5.5%. And the beta for Krog is 1.4. And so I get the required rate of return for Krog is equal to 13.7. So answer A. So this one was different in that it made you solve for the risk-free rate. And so let's look at the next one. So question 5, again, they didn't put the hint here, but where they're giving you information for stock A, has a beta of 1, risk-free rate's 5%, and stock B has a beta of 1.4. And then they give you stock A's required return, so that equals R, is 11%. And then they say, what is stock B's required return? So I have to find stock A. What I need to find in there is the market risk premium. So I could actually say use stock A. Okay, so I'd say the return on A is equal to the risk-free rate plus the market risk premium times the beta for stock A. So they said the risk-free rate was 5% plus the market risk premium, which we don't know yet, and the beta for stock A is 1, and it said the return for stock A was over here of 11%. So since this is multiplied times 1, I know that the market risk premium is equal to 11% minus 5. And so we would get that the market risk premium is equal to 6%. And then now I can solve for the required return for stock B is equal to the risk-free rate plus the market risk premium times the beta for stock B, which is 1.4, so it's a little more volatile than the market. And when I put this in the calculator, I get that the return for stock B is 13.4%. And so that's answer B.